0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to a very special edition of the Phixated podcast. We did this a bunch in October, and now we get to do it in January. I am Mike Azzy. I'm the host of the Phixated podcast, and I'm joined tonight by, well, an NFC East champion just like me. Rags, baby, we did it.
Not just that, an NFC champion. We can... Well, not yet, but a number one seed, let's call him.
Number one seed, yeah. NFC East champion, number one seed. Still a good feeling.
It all runs through Philly.
It sure does.
I love that.
It sure does. It feels really, really good. Instant reaction to the game tonight. Birds beat the practice squad Giants, I guess, 22-16. I know, Regs, we'll get right into it tonight. No playing around. We're just going to jump right in. I know, you texted me right after the game, make me feel better about, beating the practice squad Giants.
Exactly.
Which made me laugh. But certainly, Regs, like, I feel fine, man. I'm good. I'm good. Instant game reaction, man. I'm good. Jake Elliott, best kicker in the game.
I knew your answer was going to be around the play calling. And that obviously they're not going to call like Jalen runs or anything crazy. He's not going to do what he usually does because he's just trying to avoid getting hit at all costs.
Yeah,
which is good, which is absolutely what I want him to do. Again, not being able to like just put the ball in the end zone wasn't fantastic, but if they're not using their whole playbook, then I guess it's pretty easy to cover basic offense, even with a practice squad team. Again, it's not, I said it to you just because it was my true reaction in the moment. I was happy that they got it done. I'm very happy that they have the bye week. Extremely happy that they're going to be able to play these games at home. Just like getting people back healthy. Nobody got hurt tonight, knock on wood, everybody's okay. Tomorrow, nobody feels anything that they didn't feel during the game. It was just, again, we're used to this team punching it in and not always settling for field goals. So to a normal person like me, it's difficult to identify when they are just using that sort of just basic playbook. Like, football plays look like football plays. Like, why can't they just do a couple things to get more people open? I get it that they're holding everything very close to the vest in order to not show their potential, playoff opponent any of, of the offense that they're coming up with. But I think we both expected it to be more. When we first did our sort of prediction, we didn't have a score or anything because there wasn't a total. There wasn't an over, there wasn't an over under. And there wasn't like a line on the game. So we didn't give any scores, but I think we probably expected a little more than 6 if we were going to be really honest with ourselves. So it was, as everyone knows, pessimistic regs can come out every so often, and especially around the Eagles. But the win's a win. It's all we needed. Jalen didn't get hurt anymore. Everyone on the offensive line survived. No injuries to speak of. Everyone is happy and healthy, wearing their t-shirts and their hats for NFC East champs and going into a bye week.
Yeah, I think, Sirianni said it after the game that Jalen's still sore, which explains some of the rust on some of the balls that he threw. I mean, I still thought he looked pretty good overall, considering. Couple of things that jumped out at me immediately were they still really miss Lane Johnson.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Jalen's ability to escape, even though he wasn't trying to really run with the football tonight, certainly helped. And you could see the difference, in his ability to escape some of that pressure. But, if Lane's not healthy or can't play, teams are going to make Jalen roll left all day.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to send extra pressure from that side, and it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Unless they decide to do the Dillard Mailata switch, and it still isn't gonna be great at that point, but it would be better. The other thing that I think a couple of things we need to highlight. Miles Sanders again. You mentioned not a lot of, no injuries. That knee's got to be bugging him.
Yeah.
Because again tonight, and I know Boston Scott's effectiveness against the Giants, and Kenny Gainwell was really good tonight.
Yeah.
He had like some explosive plays that you haven't seen from him this year. But like something's going on with Miles Sanders. These 2 weeks are also going to help him to rest that knee a little bit.
Right.
And he's going to want to showcase come playoff time because, again, I don't see the Eagles bringing him back. So, they're definitely going to hope that he's healthy enough to get going. But that certainly hurts that offense a little bit.
You have to think that there was like a mandate. Don't do anything to get yourself hurt. Like, I know we're playing our starters, but maybe just maybe go down after you get hit once, Don't try and get yourself killed out there. I think he didn't look slower. I think you could say, like you said, he looked a little bit off from like peak Miles Sanders, but I think we know that he's not at his peak. And this was a way to make sure the knee is still okay and really just like, don't make it worse, Miles. Just don't make it worse is all we need you to do. So again, it was just so big to get this bye week to get their health back to as 100% as possible. So it's just, we of course wish they could have taken care of it last week so they can get even another week off, but it is what it is. We got it now, and hopefully that knee will be feeling better in, like you said, a few weeks.
Before we bring in our first listener here tonight, I want to touch on a couple more things from the just instant game reaction stuff. Like you mentioned it at the beginning, and they were certainly protecting Jalen tonight.
Oh yeah.
Could not have been more clear what they were doing to protect him.
Yeah.
And if there was ever a showcase of how important he is in the red zone, tonight was the night. Like the Giants had no concern about Jalen keeping the football in the red zone.
No, not at all. Yeah.
At any point. And hopefully this extra 2 weeks is going to give him the necessary rest. And honestly, Regs, I don't know if it'll matter. I think in the long run, he's still going to go for it. If it comes down to it, in the playoffs, they're going to run the football with him. And
for
they're
sure.
Just going to, they mentioned on the broadcast that he maybe shouldn't have finished the game against Chicago too. And he said that.
He probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, he said that. But you hope these 2 weeks without doing it, like they won't do anything this week.
Yeah, right.
Like there will be no physical anything this week.
Rehab and rest.
Which is great. It's just going to be rehab, rest, self-scouting.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. A big reason why they needed this bye.
Yeah.
But clearly, he didn't have a carry in the red zone today. They were not running normal RPO.
No.
It was regular run game stuff. Like there was no real mesh point hold, nothing where he was pulling the ball. If it was a run, it was a run. It was a zone run.
Yep.
Very clear that they were trying to protect Jalen and just win the football game, let him move the ball down the field and do enough. And they got 15 points off the leg of Jake Elliott tonight. And again, I mentioned it earlier almost half jokingly, but I'm serious. Jake Elliott is just incredible.
In this world of kickers, he's up there in the top 3 probably.
I was gonna say top 5, but I don't think there's much of a much of a difference. But he's been unbelievable. He's just super consistent. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
He's been super consistent, and clearly they were just like, we think that 20 points can win this football game for us tonight, and I don't know what was going on with the defense there toward the end. I don't know if it was schematic. That catch by Kenny Galladay was you can't really
that
blame
even
Darius
happened, I don't
Slay.
even know.
You can't blame him for that. And Blankenship getting run over.
Oh my God.
By Davis Webb isn't great.
Tough for the brand, especially as a Reed Blankenship podcast. It's tough for the brand. Tough for the brand. That one hurt.
I don't think he expected it.
Maybe wrap him up, Reed. Like, use your arms.
I don't think he expected him to take it. Like,
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
I think it shocked him a little bit. But interesting to see that they were using Reed on third and longs and letting CGJ in the slot.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good. God, it was
Yeah.
great to see him back out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's flying around.
Mm-hmm.
He was flying around.
Yeah.
But Regs, at the end of the day, a 14-win Eagle team. Technically, if Jalen never gets hurt, there's an argument to be made that they're a 15 or 16-win football team.
I'm sure they beat the Saints with Jalen
For
Hurts.
sure, yeah. And
that Cowboy game can go either way.
And then today is kind of a whatever game, like whoever wins type of thing. But they could be a 15 or 16-win team with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
it's just you just saw the difference. It was again in a game.
Even like Jalen Hurts, 90%, 85%.
Yeah, but that's
today.
what I mean. In a game where he's trying not to get hurt, his offensive line is banged up. And like, again, I know you're playing the second stringers, but you still got to go out and win the game. And those guys are playing for their jobs.
They're NFL football players.
Well, yeah. And like, what do you look like when you get your chance? That's still an opportunity for those guys. They're not going to take it lightly. But you, again, and Rusty, you saw how he's able to read this offense, read these guys getting open. And again, was he as sharp as he has been? No. But no turnovers. No, again, well, the one interception, but we'll give that stupid lineman down the field call. Shouldn't even have had to throw the ball.
Yeah.
That ref just wanted to put down on his card that he threw a flag tonight. So he decided to call it for a half yard down the field. But
remind me to get into that after this next segment that we do here with our first.
I'm with you. It's like, if you can't understand that this guy, even at 80%, the difference it makes between him and just a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, you're not watching the same football games we are.
Real quickly before we bring in Matt, who we're going to talk to a little bit of his reaction and excitement. Jalen Hurts, the year that he was like a question mark for this roster, right?
Yeah.
Like no one knew. We basically came in like, all right, let's see what Jalen's got. I don't know if we'll win the division, but so he 14-1 record as a starter, number 1 seed overall, 3,400, almost 3,500 passing yards, 22 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. 5. That's it.
Yeah.
747 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. Crazy.
He won't win the MVP, and that's fine.
No,
but certainly at the end of the day, we look at Jalen Hurts' season and it's a success, and this team is not where they're at without him. And his leadership just alone is paramount to what this team will do in the postseason. I see him as the type of guy who's going to will his team to a win. But with that said, let's bring in Matt here.
All right.
And a season ticket holder, Matt Rogers, and talk to him a little bit about his reaction. He was not there today, though.
Oh, bummer. Well, here we go.
Well, we'll talk to him about why.
All right.
Good reason. Matty, baby.
Hey, buddy.
There he is.
Hey, congratulations. You're an NFC East champion.
I know. We got done walking the dogs while I was waiting to get on. So I'll scoot down and get some quiet time for a moment.
That's you. Guys, can I just say, I had a tremendous amount of faith. You want to know how much faith I had that we were going to win tonight? I went ahead and I sold the Saints game. Nothing to worry about. I sold the Giants game. What do I have to worry about? I paid for all of the playoff games already by meaningless games. We might as well not have even played them. I was so confident. I wasn't sweating at all going in today whatsoever.
Of course not.
I just said to Regs before you came on, Matt wasn't at this game or last week's game, and he'll tell you why when he gets in. And sure enough, you met the expectation. You understood the assignment, Matt.
Absolutely. Well, it was just one of the things, my money to go see the Saints compared to go see the, NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. I think I made the right decision.
You absolutely
Oh,
made the
yeah.
right decision. The only thing better could be watching it at my townhouse together.
We're not going to say what happened afterwards, after that Atlanta game.
No, for
Okay.
sure not. But we had a
Without
great.
details,
We had a lot
we
of
were
fun.
hanging out, but
We
we
absolutely
weren't really
should talk
hanging
about
out.
that.
So, needless to say, we had a great dinner.
We did. We did.
I remember, celebrating for a solid, 8 minutes after the game,
Okay.
and then immediately, I went to the bathroom and I fell asleep. I think I fell asleep. I don't know quite what happened, but all I know is I woke up. Mike tried to break down the door to get to me. I was content and cold.
That's fantastic.
So,
But we were very
libations-
excited. We were very excited.
Might have been part of it, but after that Julio miscatch, all bets are off.
All bets were off. I mean, we really went for it that day. I feel like it was like double drinks for every single drink that we made. It was not your normal day.
I don't know if you know this, but there's something about I was watching. I know this is the purpose of the jumping on the diet soda and adult beverage combinations hit different, like majorly different, and that was not a normal thing for me. And boy, oh boy, it knocked me on my literal butt.
For those of you that don't know what he's talking about, I don't. With my captain, I don't drink regular Coke. I have Coke Zero. So that's what Matt's referring to.
Dude,
so
ruined me.
Bang and I spent all of college drinking diet soda and any alcohol that would go with it.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a staple. It's a staple.
Matt, this is what we talked about this on the last episode. Like, most people love the stories more than the sports talk. So this is perfect into what we're going to talk about with you now, which is before you came on, I was saying, like, I'm not concerned at all. Regs was doing his normal pessimist Regs outlook.
Sometimes it comes out. It just has to
I
be
feel a little nervous after today. So I'm going to ask you, like, how you feeling? They get a bye. Like, are you stressing the next 2 weeks? Or are you like, we did what we had to do and we're still the best team in the NFC?
So I think, matchup as always is the big fear. What we could be playing changes how we feel about the next round. NFC Championship, if we get and are lucky enough to get to there, is going to be a tough matchup regardless. But I think, the Seahawks, I guess based off how this game plays out, Seahawks, Green Bay, one of those teams as the wild card possible winner, last seed in scares me more than the others, right? Just naturally behind who's center. So, like, there's definitely a portion of all bets are off, but I gotta be honest, I feel again, I may be a little bit more in Mike's camp where optimism and good vibes are what I like to live for. Not Reg saying that you don't, but
listen, it's
related
okay.
to this sports thing. I just have this feeling like, Gannon, for instance, all of the crap that Gannon gets, I kind of get it, but it was the same stuff that, we saw with Jim Schwartz being a Hall of Fame style, assistant coach. It was that bend, don't break, and play to the opponents. Like, I felt like they played super soft today because they knew they could play super soft today, right? Like, Slay did not play well. Do I expect Slay to not play well in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
No, I imagine that he's going to earn the name and recognition that he, carries when it matters. And again, this is my feeling. When it has mattered, they haven't done anything other than shown up. Going into the Saints game, it didn't really matter. And that Washington game, honestly, I think it was the smack in the face that they needed. But we have yet to see a time where they really didn't show up, i.e. the Cowboys game, Christmas Eve was still, there was no business for them to be in that game like they were.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, did they, make it fun and enjoyable. And to be honest, I don't feel the Negadelphia style perspective that we normally would have. again, that's just my view of things.
No, I think it's fair. I think you're right. I think in most cases they've stepped up to the plate when they've had to play. Like, we talked about, how many trap games did we talk about? We talked about Arizona. We talked about the Titans. We talked about Green Bay. Like, those were the three, when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, those were the games that we circled. Like, these could go either way, and these could be the classic trap games if they've won 4 or 5 in a row. Then comes Arizona. Then they had a couple more, and then they had the Titans. Like, look, Arizona was ugly, but they won.
They did what they had to.
The Titans, they held Derrick Henry to 30 yards, right? Which was crazy. They stepped up again. Green Bay, same thing. I certainly think that I think it all hinges on, at least, I think offensively, they can beat any team. I think defensively, I'm still confident because the front four has been so good. And if they can really disrupt what they're trying to do, like, Slay has been off. We've talked about this, Azzy. Slay's been off for 6 weeks. Something's been weird.
Yeah. So the bye's big. The bye is so big.
It's huge
for that.
But that's just the kind of stuff. Like, again, if the bye helps him get right from whatever might be nagging him, or if he's just tired, like a week of doing nothing is going to help a lot of these guys. And I have like, he didn't become a worse player all of a sudden after 8 weeks of football. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You don't lose what you were doing. So if all it takes is a week of doing nothing, then fantastic. Like, great. With the way the front four is playing, like, him being back to normal just makes it that much harder for these teams.
I guess I would also add that I feel like with preparation, this team has always shown up slightly sluggish, less than expected. They've come out firing. The simple fact of the matter is Jalen getting an extra week of rest on that shoulder is the only thing that really matters. Everyone, it's the classic, everyone's dealing with injuries. Lane scares the heck out of me, but like that, the single-handed factor of, was Jalen going to have to play next week compared to a week off is the only thing that was, you could hope for by the end of, the 4 quarters today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to kind of hammer home your point, I have a couple more questions then for you, Matt. Out of their bye week this year, beat the Cowboys 26-17, came out of the bye and blew out just destroyed the Steelers, who ended up being a really good football team.
Now playoffs,
now they got the rookie early in his NFL career, but that being said, they still blew the doors off of Pittsburgh out of the bye week. So you kind of hope for that same situation in the coming weeks here for the Eagles. But a couple of just a real quick question for you. Now that the regular season is wrapped up, 18 weeks here, 18 weeks gone, feels like it flew by. Anything that surprised you, a player that surprised you, a group of a position group that surprised you, or something just from the season that you want to highlight? You're a season ticket holder, so you've seen a lot of it close up, but anything that you want to just kind of speak to as, wow, what a cool thing to watch all year?
I think a lot of times we look at it through the lens of fantasy, right? We have players that we depend on. We look at players as, commodities almost that we could acquire or not. And I think that my reflection on the season is Howie Roseman is the highlight of the season. Legitimately, from beginning to end. And I think that this is what we think of as armchair analysis. Like, we're sitting there saying, at the end of the day, I think this player's better than who we had playing before. And time after time, he made logical choices, swapped out, a good piece for a slightly better piece. That AJ Brown swap, you can't tell me that first and third round pick is going to come close to the potential of even, and obviously I want him to play 4 years plus, healthy, crushing things, but this one season made that move completely worth it. You know, just what he's done already, being the single-handed most yards for a Eagles wide receiver since Harold Carmichael, 40 years ago? Or
Mike Quick.
Yeah,
Mike Quick.
Oh, is it
They
Mike
broke
Quick?
Mike Quick, yeah.
Outrageous. So, like, I just feel like we played the role that we, Mike, I know you do this specifically for, both many sports, but like, if I were to be in that seat, what change would I have made? And he made these logical, straightforward choices that we all saw was like, this should be good. I think this is the right move. And time after time, it was the right move. So I don't know if I want to say that I was surprised by anything. I think we all walked in being like, this is the Vince Young dream team that we thought it was going to be, but actually a well-rounded. I mean, look at our line. Our linebackers have naturally been such a weak area that we purposely neglect. And even there, you have, because you're white, and, Reddick has been outrageous. And, Hargrave, even if you were to look at, like, I think it sums up with the Pro Bowl. 12 guys, 14 guys to be named towards the Pro Bowl in some capacity just validates how good this roster is compared to, when we were here in July thinking that they were going to be that good to actually manifest. And so I give credit, obviously, to Sirianni, too. I think he did a heck of a job and navigated. But, the people in front of him to work with, Howie deserves a ton of credit, regardless of how the playoffs go.
So, yeah, I think for us to sit here tonight and be talking about a team that on the same day not only clinched the division, but clinched a top 10 pick in this year's NFL draft, that a lot of that goes to Howie Roseman. I mean,
unbelievable.
Now that being said, I don't know that any of us thought the Saints would be as bad as they were this year,
right.
but he still ended up getting both of those things in the same year. And some of that came about because of the midseason moves he made. Nothing crazy at the trade deadline, right? It was Linval Joseph and it was Ndamukong Suh, and that defensive line come playoff time when Josh Sweat is back,
Gonna be invaluable.
Sweat, Graham, Quinn, Williams, Reddick, Cox, Sue, Hargrave, Joseph, Davis. It just keeps going. And a lot of that goes to what Howie did in the depth. And, the Eagles overall just have a ton of depth. What they were able to do by, our boy Reed Blankenship being able to slide into the safety spot and CGJ today being able to move into the nickel when Avante goes out, just all of it, all around, the tight end room, all of it, just everything.
CJ is going to play that role in the playoffs too, right? I think
Avante's apparently going to be eligible come playoff time.
Yeah,
which is just
that would
insane.
Be unbelievable.
It's just
they didn't put him. They did not put him on the IR, which means they want him available. They could have IR'd him and he would have been able to play in the NFC Championship game, and they didn't do it. So that means that he might be able to play in the divisional round, which is just insane to me. Okay. One more question for you before you go here, Matt.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was shaking outside.
No, you're good.
I was trying to get my dogs to.
You're good, man.
Go to the bathroom. Go ahead.
So our definites going into the playoffs are that the Eagles are the 1 seed, the Niners are the 2 seed, the Vikings are the 3 seed, which means the Eagles cannot see either of those two teams until NFC title week. The remaining teams are Dallas and Tampa Bay, who will match up in Tampa. And then the Giants will go to Minnesota. The Niners are waiting to see who they will play. As of the moment, they will play Green Bay. So of the teams that the Eagles can play in the divisional round. Now, Nick Sirianni said today, we're not even worrying about that yet. We're worrying about our self-scouting this week. That's all we're focused on is self-scouting, and then we'll worry about whoever we play when that's decided. But because the NFL now reseeds and there is no real bracket, the Eagles could play anybody from Dallas down to Seattle or Green Bay. So if you had your choice of Dallas, Tampa Bay, well, let's not do it choice because I don't want to do choice. I want to do which team do you fear the most? Dallas, Tampa Bay, the Giants, the Seahawks, or the Packers? Who would you be the most scared to watch in 2 weeks at the link?
I mean, I think the logical choice is Dallas. Dallas is the most dangerous group. I think Tampa Bay and Green Bay are in the conversation because they have Hall of Fame quarterbacks that classically play, up. I still, PTSD from the playoff game against Tampa Bay last year. Tampa Bay has a great defense, and, it would just be far too, predictable for TB12 to, have a great playoff run after all of this. And it's not like he doesn't have the weapons to realistically put something together. That scares the heck out of me. I think Green Bay, even though we took care of them at home, you're never going to count out Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
So those are the only three. Like, am I worried about Seattle with Geno Smith? Absolutely not. I would love AJ Brown to destroy DK Metcalf in Philadelphia just to put it completely to rest. I think the only two teams that I distinctively am worried about naturally would be the 49ers. There's just far too many weapons and a stupidly good defense. Doesn't matter, that, noodle arm is thrown for them. And, the Cowboys just naturally, because just like I think we play to our opponent and hopefully, usually one step above, I think the Cowboys, last time I was on, I referenced the MLS, as I was at Overlook Park with a flat tire.
Right.
So 2 years ago, the Union played 5 times against the New England Revolution, which is, there are MLS League and some Open Cup and some other competitions that they played so many times, and the Union played them 4 times in the regular season timeframe and destroyed them. And the 5th time, when it actually mattered, New England won. And there's something just about the Cowboys, we love to use, now that it's not how many rings are on your finger, we have one. Right. We have been ruthless to them of were you alive when they won in the playoffs type scenario that I just would hate for that to flip. And I don't know if that's just because the Cowboys are awful and, no one should like them. And that's just why I naturally have a higher fear of them. It's not that their team scares me. It's the aftermath of if their team were to beat us, how that would leave me, respectable. If Aaron Rodgers beats you, you kind of understand it. If Tom Brady beats you, you kind of understand it. And you throw it up to, Geno Smith, if that were to happen or whatever the case may be, you just don't expect it otherwise. So that's how I fall on certain things, but, I'll be there. That's all that I care about. That's and, trying to do my part to make sure that they, don't have an advantage or, a rooting interest in, an upset by any means.
Well, we lean on you to bring it home for us. So, Matt, as always, we appreciate you stopping in to visit us.
Absolutely.
We look forward to the next couple of weeks of talking about the Birds and certainly, hopefully we have the same excitement during this playoff run that we did in October.
That's right.
Well, unfortunately, I will not be able to fall asleep around your bathroom, but
that's all right.
I'll make you guys proud.
I hope that you fall asleep around the bathroom at the link.
There you go.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Thanks
Appreciate
so much.
it, man.
See you guys.
We'll see ya. One thing that Matt mentioned, Regs, was about AJ Brown and wanting to watch him for a while. I don't know if you saw this quote, but they asked him about he and Devontae Smith both breaking records this year. So AJ Brown broke the receptions record, or no, the yards record, and Devontae broke the receptions record.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ said, we got a lot more. We're going to be here for a long time. And that's really exciting because
hope
we
so.
have not had that kind of tandem, and they're only going to get better.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that when Matt was talking about what sort of group he thinks he like wanted to say was most improved or unexpected. I don't know how you talk about that without talking about Jalen Hurts. And then you can't talk about that without talking about how having AJ Brown with Avonte Smith changes this season completely.
Yeah.
Like, just think if that's still Jalen Reagor.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
This,
I mean, AJ Brown this year, 1,496 yards. The Titans wide receivers combined 1,595. They only out received him by 100 yards, 99 yards.
This offense doesn't exist without AJ Brown. Devontae Adams doesn't set a reception record without AJ Brown.
Smith, but I hear you.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Like, it just doesn't happen.
All right. That's all right. Second season, Devontae Smith sets a new franchise record for most receptions by a wide receiver, up to 89 catches, 1,138 yards. He's played in 34 of 34 possible regular season games, 153 career catches, 2,054 yards, and 12 touchdowns. I mean, it's not something we expected.
I think we all expected him to be good.
Yeah, but people thought he was going to break.
No, right. But I think that's why we talk about having someone on the other side of him, like AJ Brown, makes him not have to do all the things that like a true number one has to do.
Right.
And that a guy of his body type shouldn't be doing.
Right. Right.
And it's literally probably prolonged his career by a year or two. Mm-hmm. Just having that guy on the other side of him.
Yeah. And
not only that, but what I'm sure he's learning from him, all the things that comes with that. Like, it's hard. Like, this season doesn't happen without getting AJ Brown.
Correct.
It doesn't happen.
Correct.
Like, forget what the defense is doing and all that stuff. Like, you could do all the same things on defense. And if you don't get AJ Brown, your offense is not what this offense was.
Right.
Jalen Hurts probably does not progress as quickly as he did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
Right. Okay. Let me ask you that same. So is that your answer to that question? Because I was going to ask that question to you anyway. Like, what position group would you say receiver?
Yeah, I think I think I say Jalen Hurts, but with like the caveat of it's because of that receiver group. Because I think when we started talking about the Eagles, we were like, we just need to see Jalen make small improvements. Yeah. We're not looking for him to become an MVP or a guy leading us, to the Super Bowl. He just has to be the guy who's not losing us games.
Mm-hmm.
Like that literally was our expectation.
Yeah.
And he's turned that into being an MVP candidate.
Right.
Not turning the ball over at all. And again, that all hinges on that wide receiver core becoming that much better. Yeah.
I think for me, I've gone back and forth a little bit on this, as Matt was talking, but I think the group for me is the defensive line. What they did this year, I think they ended with 69 sacks. They fell like 3 short of the NFL record.
They had 70. I think they fell 2 short.
Oh, did they end up getting another one?
Yeah, they showed 70 on TV.
Okay, so 2 short. But, and I know not all of it was the defensive line, but a bulk of it was the defensive line.
Yeah.
And I think before the year started, I mean, look, we're going to talk about this in a second. One of my predictions was 2 players that would combine for 20 sacks. They were like second to last in the league last year in sacks.
Yeah.
And what a difference one guy will make.
I think they had 29 total or 31 last year.
What a difference Hassan Reddick makes, right? Like he just changed everything. He changed everything.
And I was criticizing him like
early,
up to
before he got the scheme.
No, sure. Yeah. But like to week 3 almost.
Yeah.
We were like, I was wondering like, where is he at? Like, but yeah, he shoved that right back in my face.
That was mine for sure.
Yeah.
But before we bring in Roger here as our next caller, let's go back over my
Oh, I love this. I love when we do this. This is the best.
my preseason predictions, because my goodness, was it not great.
Oh, this is the best. I love when we do
It
this.
was just, this is what's the best about doing these predictions before the year starts. I'm just trying to pull up a couple of things here so that we have it. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure I have it written down. Some of it was great. Others of it not, just not my best work, honestly. But we'll deal with that. Okay. So we already decided that we missed on the Sirianni metaphor in week 4.
We did
decide that. They did not sweep the NFC East.
That's right.
They were 4-2 in the NFC East.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably should have won the 2 games they lost, though.
Yes.
So yeah. Number 1 rush defense in the NFL. Remind me next year not to do that. Here's why. It's so hard to be the number 1 rush defense in the NFL. They fall like right in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And they're separated by like tenths of yards.
Yeah.
So it's really not a good prediction to make. It's kind of dumb. You got to do like top 10 or something like that. Both rookies will receive Defensive Rookie of the Year votes. I don't think either one will. I think Jordan Davis may have.
Yeah, the injury, obviously.
Didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
He
was playing really well.
Yeah, his injuries definitely did it. So we were 0 for 4 there to start. And none of them, well, I guess the undefeated in the East was close.
Yeah, close. We'll call it close, sure.
And so then number 5, we nailed 2 players with 20 sacks combined. They actually had 4 players with 40 sacks.
Yep.
So
hit that double.
Out.
You hit a double.
That word, yeah, daily double. Well, Jeopardy. Here's a take.
Is this Quez?
Kenny Gainwell, 1,000 total yards.
All right.
370 total yards for Kenny Gainwell this year.
My guy, when I texted Azzy, who should I grab with like the last pick of my fantasy draft? Kenny Gainwell, man, he's gonna hit it. He's gonna get it.
Well,
listen,
classic.
You win some, you lose some.
You win some, you lose some. All right, here's the funny thing about this next one. My prediction was that Jalen Hurts would have 3,500 yards throwing and 500 yards rushing. He had 3,472 yards throwing.
The injury killed you.
And 747 yards rushing.
He would have blown past that.
So I'm giving myself a half star, Regs.
I think that's 3/4 of a star.
All right, 3/4
because he absolutely gets it if he doesn't get hurt. It's not like he was. It's not like he was way off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? The rushing yards make up for it anyway. He still had over 4,000 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
So I'll give myself.
I'll give you 3/4 of a star for that.
3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen. They have 3 starters and 2 reserves. They have 5 Pro Bowl offensive linemen.
Check the box on that one.
Check the box on that one. Quez Watkins. I said 750 yards receiving. He had 350 yards receiving. So he came up 400 yards short. I actually don't see that as much of a failure, honestly.
He got hurt a little bit.
I see the Kenny Gainwell one as a far larger failure.
Yeah.
You know, when you got 2 other dudes and Dallas Goedert that are going to be like 1,000-yard receivers, like that was a real shot in the dark.
That was a stretch.
And then the last one, the Eagles will be the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Check that box, baby.
Tip that cap, baby.
Check that box.
I said when we recorded that show that this is the one I wanted. This is the one that I'd be happiest with. And here we are. We sit here tonight, week 18, and the Eagles will be the number 1 seed.
That's right.
NFC.
That's right.
So, you know what? With that, let's bring in Roger. I want to ask his opinion on whether or not I can count the Jalen Hurts thing.
All right. Here he comes.
Let's bring him in.
You did? I think. Oh, there
Roger.
We go. Hey, what's happening, buddy?
What's up?
How's it going? Roger had a long drive today, Regs.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting on my couch.
You made it. You made it. Tell us what you were doing today.
I took my son back to WVU for the second semester of his freshman year.
There it is.
Country roads.
On his birthday.
There you go.
Oh, happy birthday, Noah. That's awesome.
There you go.
That's awesome. 19 today?
What's that?
19 today.
19 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at
Tell you
that.
what, singing Country Roads, we got to do that when we went down to a game this year. We went to a
Did you?
Thursday night game.
There
They
you
beat
go.
Baylor. Stood there
Are
and
you
sang
gonna
Country Roads.
Are you gonna go see him play Penn State next year?
I will.
Are you?
Well, actually, the Penn State game's at Penn State, so I'm not sure.
That's right.
I think the following year it's at West Virginia. I think
I'll
next
probably
year
be there.
I think next year we're looking to go to the backyard brawl.
Oh,
There
nice.
you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that'd be awesome.
that's in Morgantown next year.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this before we get into the birds overall. So I made my 10 predictions before the season started.
Yes.
All right, so we just went over them, and I was 3 3/4 out of 10. Can I give you the 3/4 and see what you would do if you were me?
Sure.
All right, so I hit on the 2 players combining for 20 sacks. We had 4 players that combined for
I was
40.
going to say you.
So daily double on that one.
You doubled that one. Right?
Daily
right.
double.
You get bonus points.
There you go. Do I get bonus points for saying 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen and they have 5?
Yes. Yes, that's the 3/5 vote.
And then the NFC number 1 overall seed, I hit that one.
Yes, you did.
Here's the one. Jalen Hurts, I had him at 3,500 yards throwing, 500 yards running. He had 3,972 yards
472.
or 472 yards throwing. So I missed it by 28 yards. Do I get 3/4 of a star for that?
I will give it to you.
Oh,
you.
he's giving you the putt.
Thank you. Plus, he had over 700 yards rushing. So
Yeah,
I
it gives
feel
you a
like
little
that
leeway.
gives
Plus
me a
he
little.
He's telling you to
Missed 2
take
games.
it away. Take it away,
Take
Azzy.
it. All right, I take it. Listen, I'll take
Listen,
almost 4 stars out of 10 on those.
there you go.
I'll take
Yeah,
it.
because some of yours were pretty outlandish. I don't say outlandish.
No,
but
they were. We
pretty
just talked
ballsy.
about it.
We just talked about it.
Kenny
You have
Gainwell
to.
and Quez Watkins specifically.
You have to. You can't do all layups. It's not fair to the
No, you have to
brand.
do. Yeah, you got to do
Gotta
something
shoot some
fun.
threes.
That's
Gotta
right.
shoot
It's not,
some 3/4 court shots.
it's not fair to the brand, Roger, you know?
That's right.
So,
Right.
hey, I know you didn't get to watch today. I'm sure
Did
you've
not.
read a little bit. You heard my reaction to it. I was texting Roger the whole game. I just texted him updates the whole time. Any like season reactions, Roger? Anything that like you look at and you say, this surprised me. This position group was a lot better than I thought they'd be. The last caller that we talked to was like, Howie's the guy that I want to highlight. Like Howie and what he did with this roster is the reason why they are what they are. Anything that you wanted to talk about as we wrap up the season?
Well, I will give Howie his nod because a couple of years back, I was really not very high on him. He had blown, in my mind, a lot of draft choices over those few years. And I always thought he was smarter than everyone else, and it used to hurt him, especially on the higher picks, the ones that should be your slam dunks.
Mhm.
That said, he has nailed it the last 2 to 3 years. And this offseason, he got everything. Well, you can't say everything, but he did a really heck of a job to solidify their weaknesses. So I thought he did a great job. So I'll echo that. And then number 2, I would have to say Jalen's improvement
Regs.
was what's that?
That was Regs's too.
Oh, it was
great
ridiculous.
minds. Great minds.
Yeah. Yes. Great minds. I would definitely say, I mean, you asked Mike, I've told him recently that everything that you say related to the Sixers, I'm right there with you and have been all along. Harden needs to be a distributor and get his triple doubles like today without shooting 80 shots.
That's right.
Or dribbling the entire time
Yeah.
clock. Anyway, I would say Jalen. Like without his improvement, they're still a team that, like, I don't think could win it all. But I think they do have the ability to do so now because he has the ability to take over a game.
Yeah.
That's a really good answer, Roger. I think like mine was the defensive line. I just think what they were able to do over the course of this year, like, surprised me. I thought my bold prediction was like a lot that they'd have two guys with 20 combined sacks, and here we are with 70 sacks at the end of this year. It's just insane to me.
Well, they need to in this defensive scheme.
Yeah.
Anybody
Right.
anybody that runs this scheme, you have to have your D line has to get home on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they certainly have. And
They do.
we talked a little bit about this with our last caller, and it was the idea of what this defensive line is going to be when they play again. And Quinn came back today and actually had a lot more bend than what we've seen from him since he came here. He was clearly hurt when he got here.
Oh yeah.
Because there was a lot more bend to him today. And actually you saw a very veteran play from him on an attempted trick play where they wanted to do a throwback to Davis Webb, and he just followed Davis Webb. He sniffed it out and caused like a 5-yard loss because he saw it and the veteran in him clicked. But you're going to have him rotationally. Sweat will be back. Brandon Graham rotationally. Reddick, who's just been a revelation for them. And then you think about the middle of the line. You have Milton Williams, Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, Sue, Joseph, Davis. So they're loaded like 10 deep on that defensive line. And, just quickly talk to the impact that can have when you are playing in January weather in Philadelphia.
Well, first of all, the ability to rotate, especially since some of them are getting a little longer in the tooth.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how Fletcher. First of all, Fletcher is ridiculously talented. Does not always play to his talent and can be a little pouty at times. But when he's fresh and rested, he can just destroy a game.
Right.
So I think that'll be a big help. The DN, same thing. I mean, really, Sweat's the only one. Well, I guess Reddick's not old either. But being able for Brandon Graham and Quinn to rotate to get there, just that constant freshness, especially if they get back to getting leads. This is a team and a defense that has to play with a lead.
Yeah.
They're so much better when they play with a lead. So that ability to just keep sending guys and rotating them in. And then the Howie move to get the two big D tackles that can take up blockers. That'll be huge too, because some of those other guys get blown off the ball. Quite honestly, because they do play a little selfish from time to time, both Hargraves and Cox, and they turn their shoulders and get washed out big time sometimes at inopportune moments. So having those two guys will be a big help for them too.
Yeah, I think one more piece that I want to ask you about before we do the final question that we're doing with callers tonight is, I complain to you pretty much week in, week out, and you kind of talk me back off the ledge, and then I come on and I defend the man to Regs after I do my reading and my reflection and my all 22 watching, which, by the way, did you find it, Roger? Did you find the all 22?
Yeah.
Okay. You see what I mean? Like, you can kind of watch it with like people talking about it, or you can mute it. But so Roger heard me talking about it on the show, Regs, and he texted me and asked where he can find the all 22. I was like, just YouTube it. You can find every week. So Roger, just real quickly for all the people out there, for Regs especially, the Jonathan Gannon defense, if you're doing your closing argument to the jury, like, give me the Jonathan Gannon, what have you. What is it about him that makes him the defensive coordinator that people should appreciate rather than complain about? Because Regs and I do complain about him quite a bit.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not always sold on everything they're doing now. Let's be honest here. I'm just defending the guy as a quality coach when I hear people saying he can't coach, because he is a very smart guy. Here's what I will say in his defense moving forward here. And this is what gets in the criticism. He sticks to what they've coached and what they do. And I think a lot of times people are quick to change from what they do and then end up doing something they're not good at or as good at or they're not built for. The one thing I will agree with you guys more, because a lot of the cover two schemes press more than they do, a lot more than they do. I do feel his two corners are better at sitting and reading and jumping routes than they are pressing. Both of them, I mean, you saw it last week with Bradbury getting beat right off the ball. We've seen Slay get beat off the ball a lot more this year, probably than any other year. And I think to run this defense the way he runs it, he counts on his players being incredibly smart, knowing down and distance, and not being out of position. Unfortunately, they have been caught out of position
Yeah.
I don't want to say quite a few times, because they have been overall statistically successful.
Yeah.
I will agree with Regs's usual counter that they have not played anyone of the ilk that they will be playing in the playoffs very often. That said, you play who you play, and that defense is designed to keep the play in front of them, play down in distance, and attack the ball, attack the routes, attack. And you saw that early in the year, and you saw it when they got CJG. They were very good at jumping routes and either deflecting the ball, making a play on the ball, or punishing the receiver. And that's what that defense is designed to do. Whether you like the scheme or not is another thing. And I got to be honest with you. When I coached, we played a very similar teach your guys. They got to be in the right place. And I always wanted to let guys go because you don't have to think. You just got to react. And unfortunately, they play very much a reacting style, or a read and react style of secondary. I think it fits Bradbury very well, and I think it fits the older Slay here that we're seeing. But they need a good slot, and they need a good safety like CJG for it to work to its fullest extent.
Yeah.
Without them, they're going to be hurting when they play the good quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads us
I don't
into
think I defended him the full way there, but
I actually thought that was fine, because I think that's kind of where Regs and I sort of go our separate ways. Is, this is a defense that has worked, and certainly I get it. They haven't played great quarterbacks, and they've played 4 of the playoff quarterbacks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 of the 7 playoff quarterbacks.
they only shut one down.
They shut 2 down.
Who's the other one they shut down?
Cousins.
Well, that's the one I have that they shut down.
Oh, Daniel Jones.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about him.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting him quite in that category as the other.
Right.
Playoff quarterback.
Right. Playoff quarterback.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rodgers still had his way, even with the hurt elbow. And they played Dak banged up. So, it's again, we beat them with Cooper Rush. They beat us with Gardner Minshew. So, we still don't have that answer yet, which leads me to this question. We know pretty much everything about the NFC playoffs, except for one team that we're waiting on right now. And as of the moment, it is going to be
The Packers.
But let's just play this game for the time being. The Vikings and the Niners are locked into the 3 and 2 seeds respectively. The Eagles will not see either one until the NFC title game. All that being said, the way the NFL does it now is reseeding. There's no bracket. So the Eagles could see anybody from Dallas and Tampa to Seattle or Green Bay. So I ask you, if you had to choose one team to officially eliminate from that conversation right now, that you don't want to see any part, you don't want any part of, would it be the Cowboys, the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Packers, or the Giants? You can pick one team and wipe them out entirely right now, who would you wipe out?
I'm not sure I'm afraid of any of those teams. I think,
Now, remember, you got to take into account coming to Philly in January.
yeah. See, offensively, I would say the Cowboys because of CD in the slot,
Yeah.
depending on who we have back. The flip side, the other team, though, is Green Bay with Rodgers and the running game they have. Could be able to play, well, not could be, would be able to play
Yeah.
in that style. Like those two teams would be the ones. I am more trusting, which is bad for Eagles, of Rodgers than I am Dak and the Cowboys. So I guess I would say Green Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, it would be a Aaron Rodgers thing to do to go to San Francisco next weekend and beat them.
I know.
Oh yeah.
Those guys just have the ability to like flip a switch. And just like
the other thing he is good at, and he probably doesn't get credit for this, and I would say it was the when Peyton finally won, when Tom has gotten a little older here, they learned to rely on the running game to be better. And
and they got two really good
Green
running
Bay has
backs.
two really good ones. Yeah.
yes, they do. And that would
They
be the
really
thing
do.
I think would hurt. That would be the thing I think would hurt the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then the ability to go with play action over the top.
Yeah, which he's so good at.
Oh my gosh, he's so good.
So I think
He's
they
so
would be
good
the
at it.
scariest team. I just don't. There's something about the Cowboys just are the Cowboys like today.
Yeah.
Like they were playing for the potentially number one seed and got shellacked with
By Sam Howell.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah, by Sam Howell. Yeah, I actually think Dallas season ends next weekend.
Oh, I think they'll
Oh
lose.
my god, I can't
Completely
wait.
honest. I think Tom Brady just houses them.
I can't wait.
The way that Brady's playing right now, like I think
agree.
he houses them.
And he has Evans and Godwin both back.
Yep.
Like they're both healthy.
Yep.
Plus another guy or two. The other running back, White, gives him a little bit of what Fournette could not with that burst he has.
Buckle up.
Yeah. I would
great.
say
Buckle up.
I would like to point out I've won one of my fantasy leagues for the second straight year.
Oh, congratulations, Roger.
Last year, I pulled off the most unbelievable feat ever because our first place is total points, which I like. And so I ended up 5-13 last year and won the league with the most points.
Wow, that's great.
That I want to see someone else pull that off.
Listen, I don't know that I could. I'm gonna lose my fantasy championship in one of my leagues, mostly because of the Bills-Bengals game not being resumed. I have Joe Burrow, and I'm gonna lose by like 12 points.
Yeah.
I had
so
Burrow and Allen are my quarterbacks that I get to alternate. So
okay.
Once Jalen went out, I was done.
Yeah.
So that is what it is.
That's right.
It is what it is, you know. That's not one that I'll be upset about.
No, losing Hurts cost my son too. He was going to be in third place in the league.
I was riding him and AJ to the sunset.
Yeah.
Well, Roger, thanks so much for popping on, man. We appreciate it.
Well, as always, gentlemen, thank you. You guys are awesome. And I will remain fixed fan.
We appreciate it, Roger. We do.
Thanks, Roger.
See ya.
All right.
We'll
see you guys.
man.
Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
So, Regs, let me ask you this. We can do our initial playoff thoughts, or we can pull Phil in and talk to him and then end with ours.
Phil's been waiting for a long time. I said,
let's get Phil in here. Let's get him in here. All right. Phil?
He's going to have to He's going to have to unmute himself.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, man.
There he is.
There you are.
My video on? Jeez.
There you are. You're not videoing, but
Now
you're
it is.
talking
It's
to
coming.
us.
There it is.
Now you're
Got you,
look at the bird.
boys.
Look at the
What's up?
birds gear. Look at the
Had to
birds
bring it.
gear.
Let's
Love
go.
it, dude. How you doing, man?
Dude, it's great to talk to you guys.
You
Look at
too.
that. The Philadelphia Eagles, the #1 seed in the NFC.
Crazy.
As predicted,
That's
you're
right.
on Phixated.
That's right.
I gotta give you the credit, man, from
As
the start.
Well, here's the thing. There were other things I predicted from the start that did not go well. So just
Well,
Quez Watkins,
this
750
isn't
yards
really that
receiving.
important now. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. I was just saying, I was talking in the waiting room, speaking of things that, predictions or things we just block out, like the Phillies versus the Mets this past year. Didn't even happen to me.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Didn't.
That whole
That's
series, that none of
exactly
that
right.
matters. going
That's
forward.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in with you then, man. Like the season ends today. Birds are the #1 overall seed in the NFC. What about this season has stood out to you the most? What is it that you look at now and you say, never saw that coming? Like, what is it? What would your reflections on the year?
Man, I think, to have 2 lockdown quarters and a pass rush that just gets after the quarterback, what we saw this year, like, that was the coolest thing for a little bit. And I think we saw that kind of earlier. We were like, yo, this has potential. But just over the year, I mean, Slay and Bradbury, don't think they missed a game. They were there the whole, we survived some of the injuries in the secondary here and there. Pass rush, led the league. And then, Miles Sanders, I didn't see that
That's a
coming.
good
so
one. We
Yeah,
haven't
that's a
heard
good
that
one.
nice
one.
to
Yeah, we've
see,
not heard that one.
Maybe, it's a product of the guys around, but he was available, and, you have to earn those yards one way or another. We'd like to see it. So I think that's probably, A.J. Brown, Devontae, too. That's just fun.
Yeah.
We missed Goddard a little through there. I'm just pumped, man. It's like I'm just thinking, too, like, what's ahead?
Yeah.
We get to watch the Giants and the Cowboys, 2 separate games in Wild Card Weekend, and pretty much we're going to play the worst seed out of them, right? Or the next week we get them at home at the Link for a playoff game.
Yeah, I think
One of those teams.
You
That
mentioned,
matchup,
yeah, and we're gonna actually ask you about that in a little bit too. But like, you mentioned Miles Sanders and Regs. I still remember being in the hotel room in South Bend saying, I don't think Miles Sanders is gonna be the guy this year. I don't think they trust him.
Yeah.
I really believed it was gonna be Kenny Gainwell. Like I really thought they truly. It's clear they don't see Kenny Gainwell as an every down back, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I think they kept Trey Sermon on the roster all year for a reason. I think they believe that they can kind of create opportunities for running backs here with this team. Like when you think back to 2017, they spent most of that year giving important carries to Corey Clement.
Yeah. Right.
And a young Miles Sanders, right? Like he was a rookie then. Was he even on the roster? I don't even remember if he was on the roster.
Oh man, I don't.
I'd have to think. I'd have to think back. I don't know if he was on that. I don't think he was. But I got to think about that running back room, but like you mentioned, Miles Sanders, and he's not one we've talked about. We had someone mention Howie Roseman as a big part to that conversation. I talked about the defensive line, which is what I want to talk to you about next. We've talked about this with everybody we've talked to tonight, which is they're going to go into that playoff game that you just talked about with a defensive line that rolls. We used to call squad deep, right? Like you've got Quinn, Sweat, Graham, Reddick, and then you boast Milton Williams and Dominican Sue. You got Joseph, you got Cox, you got Hargrave, you got Davis. Like just up and down. They roll like 10 deep on that defensive line. What kind of threat filled and what kind of advantage? I'll ask it that way. What kind of advantage does that give the Eagles in January in Philadelphia?
Just those fresh bodies, we've seen that was the template through there. And now, I think it's even like all those names you mentioned. It's just bodies, no matter what. If somebody isn't, they can pick and choose different matchups. If we're gonna face, those guys can just control the battle up front. And so much of that, and getting to quarterbacks, making sure, they gotta get rid of the ball faster than they want to. Just that threat is a game changer. And it's just, Robert Quinn barely even factors into this whole thing, and we were weeks ago. Remember that?
Yeah.
He was the
Oh,
big
yeah,
guy,
Robert
the biggest
Quinn.
name on the
Yeah,
trade
right,
deadline. Yeah, Robert Quinn. We're maybe we'll get a couple snaps, but man, it's fun too, because nothing's cooler too than being a fan and just seeing those big guys up front dominate and just set the tone. And we got our offensive line, hopefully with Lane back. Guys get rested, that kind of thing. That's what the playoffs is about. Controlling that up front.
And real quickly, I did look it up. It was LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, Wendell Smallwood,
Oh my God.
and Corey Clement. So they basically went most of that year with Blount, Smallwood, and Clement.
Yeah.
And they brought Ajayi in. Which tells you they believe more in the idea of the offensive line creating opportunities. So we probably won't see Miles Sanders back next year, which for us as Pennsylvania guys, that stinks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do believe, you can add a guy in the draft or a veteran who's a little older that, you can supplant into that role and lean on a little bit. But you mentioned Lane Johnson, Phil, and before we get into our final question with you, I want to ask you this. If you're the Eagles this week, you've got the bye, so you're doing a lot of self-scouting, right? And part of that self-scouting has to be looking at Driscoll and saying to yourself, we really put this kid at a disadvantage, right? We really are not doing him any favors heading into the postseason if by chance Lane can't go. And look, Lane's going to try.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. But he's got muscle and tendon popping out of his abdomen right now and his groin, which is going to be a very challenging thing to play through in the middle of January in Philadelphia. Let's be real. It's going to be freezing. It's going to hurt trying to do the job that Lane Johnson does. So if you're the Eagles and you're looking at the possible matchups across the board of the defenses that you might have to play, do you consider cross-training Jordan Mailata to right tackle and letting Andre Dillard get some snaps at left tackle in practice leading through the week, just in case? Because I just think if Driscoll's going to be playing right tackle, you might as well just chalk it up, because Jalen's going to be rolling left every single play.
Yeah, that's the problem. How do you? I think. Well, you made a great point. I think just for the fact that Lane, there's a chance he's very likely, even if he does play, that something's going to come up. He doesn't finish it. Then what do you do too in that situation? It's to count on Driscoll. Even suppose something happens to him, you're going to have to talk to Mailata and have that conversation. Andre Dillard, wow. To think that it could come into a playoff game. Andre Dillard's our left tackle. It's just how we wrote it up a couple years ago. Yeah. The only saving grace where I'm thinking through this is there's no better guy in the world that I would want to trust with this problem than Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah.
Getting the most
Great
out
point.
of it. And I think it's kind of even as much as people do like to talk about him or his name comes up, it's we're so spoiled.
Yeah.
To go from two and and I think you talked about Howie Roseman, and as much sometimes I think he gets some crap, Jeff Lurie, man. Think the playoff teams, who's got the bye? The Chiefs and the Eagles. Doug Peterson took the Jags into the playoffs. Outside of Chip Kelly, the guys that Jeff Lurie was hiring, they're doing pretty well in the league still.
They're all there, man.
Yeah.
They're all there.
You
And
can
you can even like Sean McDermott's in that conversation too.
That's true, right? Guys
there are guys just everywhere. There are guys everywhere. I don't know if there's anybody else. I can only think about them.
Right?
Yeah.
That Dallas franchise that's notorious for churning out, Gosh.
Well, so So yeah, I think part of our conversation tonight has been a little bit of that whole the offensive line scenario, and I think eh, you're right. It's a great point we haven't talked about is the Jeff Stoutland effect, and I don't blame Driscoll for the situation he's in. He's a guard playing tackle. I think the real guy to blame here is Andre Dillard, who hasn't learned the right tackle position. The guy's been here for 4 years. He hasn't started, and he hasn't learned how to play right tackle. He's learned how to play left guard, but he hasn't learned how to play right tackle. So, for me, he's the guy that I look at and I point the finger at. I think Driscoll works his tail off. He plays hard. He's just not meant to be a tackle. And guys with longer arms, and we saw it with Cam Jordan last week, and athleticism are going to eat him alive. And there are dudes all over the playoffs like that, which leads me to this question, Phil, and it'll be the one we let you out on. We know that the Niners and the Vikings line up in the 2 and 3 spots respectively. So the Eagles can't see either of those teams until the NFC Championship game. But they can see any of the following teams because the NFL reseeds. So they can see any of the following teams in the divisional round. Dallas, Tampa, the Giants, Seattle, or Green Bay. Right now, Green Bay leads 9-6 at halftime. So if you could eliminate any one of those teams right now and say, don't want to see them, don't have to see them, they're gone, which team would you eliminate in this moment right now, taking all factors into account? Everything.
Yeah. So we've got home field. I mean, that's the thing. Maybe just the Cowboys, because if things happen, I'm not saying I'm worried about it, but if one team I would want to see could give us the most trouble, it's going to be the Cowboys. I don't trust after how they look today, but I think this is the matchup that, the Giants, Green Bay, sure, there's the Rodgers thing, but I don't know. They don't. It seems like we've handled them pretty well at times. We could come up with a good plan with 2 weeks. I'm not so worried about them. But the thing with the Cowboys, if we can't block, protect up front, and they throw Parsons over on that, we're talking not even like it's gonna be trouble with a lot of guys, but Micah Parsons and the way that, especially the way that they can do stuff with him to like throw him all over the formations and just do crazy stuff with his athleticism. That's just one team I don't want to bring him in the NFC Championship game with the pressure with them. They got to earn it before we want to play them, that kind of thing. We'll see.
I actually think their season's over next week, if I'm being honest with you, but
you think it's going to be Brady?
I don't think Brady loses to them at home. I just think Brady has their number, and after today, they're going to be so in their heads after today. They lost to Sam Howell. Like, they're going to be so in their heads, and I think Brady, they don't have cornerback 2. They don't have any linebackers. The middle of that defensive line is a disaster. Someone's got to cover Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
And Mike Evans too.
Well, they could essentially say that they can put Diggs on there and that's fine, but they don't have CB2, and there are so many weapons on that field that Brady is their kryptonite, and having to go there to play him, I just think their season ends next week, and Dallas fans will be out of our ear before we play. I don't see them winning. So, Phil, as always, we so appreciate you checking in with us, man. Go Birds!
Great talking to you guys. Go
and
Birds!
I'm sure we'll if they're heading to the NFC title game, we'll be back on live.
We're doing reaction pods to every playoff game. We'll be back.
So yeah, we'll be back live. But thanks for popping in, man.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it, man.
Through the spring training's not too far away.
That's right.
You never know.
He'll be in a completely different outfit for that video.
Yeah, for sure.
You know it.
For sure.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, man. We'll see you.
See ya.
All right, so let's do this, Rags, so we can log out of here. We've been on for a while. Been a fun show, though.
It has been fun.
Let me get your thoughts to that question we've asked everybody. What team would you take off the list if you had to.
Yeah.
If you could. Not if you had to, if you could.
Yeah. I really like Green Bay. And if I'm honest, like Tampa. I don't want to play those quarterbacks who just have an unending knowledge of how to beat everything they look at.
Yeah.
I just think that with the way that we play defense, if you get a game where we can't get home, and this was kind of true in the Green Bay game, for a certain amount of time before Rodgers got hurt, we really weren't getting to him. And he was having a lot of time back there.
Yeah, he gets rid of the ball fast.
And like you can't give guys like that time. So if it just happens to be a game where our guys aren't getting home, and again, I'm not saying this will happen, but I'm just talking about what the worst case scenario is for me. If it turns into that, then I'm terrified of those two teams because of those two quarterbacks.
Right.
I know Dak Prescott is going to do his thing, like if you give him enough time, but he's going to shoot himself in the foot eventually.
Yeah.
Like Rodgers and Brady are not in a playoff scenario. They're not going to make a mistake to let you back in the game. And again, from like a skill standpoint, Brady still has two really, really good receivers. And then Green Bay with those running backs who can not only run, but also serve as a huge threat out of the backfield to catch and run routes.
Yeah, especially Aaron Jones.
Yeah. Like, I know our linebackers have been playing better, but even you talked about it on the last pod, like Kaiser White and the numbers he's given up in his coverage. Like, that's a nightmare matchup.
Yeah.
With Aaron Jones. So just the quarterbacks with playoff and championship experience. And not only that, but they're just so smart. They just understand exactly what you're trying to do and how to take advantage of it. I don't want to see either of those two teams. Yeah,
and I'll kind of go with this. Obviously tonight is an exciting night, and I'll do a little fixated on that in a moment. I don't worry at all about Seattle. So I'm praying that the Lions find a way to win this game so Seattle gets in.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think anything's possible in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I truly believe that anything's possible next weekend in San Francisco. While I understand all the weapons that Brock Purdy has, I also think, especially if it's a division rival, going there to play, that anything's possible in San Francisco. That being said, I will tell you this right now. If Green Bay goes to San Francisco, Green Bay's beating San Francisco.
All right.
Rodgers isn't losing that game.
That would be unbelievable.
He's not losing. He's not losing that game.
There you go.
That is a lock. Aaron Rodgers is not losing if he goes to San Francisco.
You heard it here first, people.
But I'll say this. If I had to choose between the two teams, because I agree. I think the Giants have the argument from this stance of like, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times.
Yeah.
I just don't know how Daniel Jones would do in the link.
Right. In the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how he would do. They would certainly try to do everything in their power to make it a Saquon Barkley game.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I think the Eagles would say that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll put 8 in the box and make you beat us with Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So I thought about that throughout the show, but I think if it came down to it for me, if I could eliminate any one team from this conversation, it would be the Bucs.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
I just when you think about Aaron Rodgers coming to Philly, I still lean on a little bit of like, I think we could lock down the receivers.
Yeah.
I still think we could get home on Aaron here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I worry so much about having to shut down Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
it's
now
hard.
last year,
it's a
the
hard
dude
thing
who
to
killed
do.
us was Antonio Brown.
Well, yeah, of course.
At least in the regular season, because then he went nuts and didn't play.
Yeah.
But but Mike Evans and Antonio Brown are just unbelievable. I think defensively, I think our offense could do more to them this year
Yes,
than
their
we did
defense
last
is not
year.
as good as last year.
No, and I think Jalen's a different player.
Yeah.
But I do think Brady would still find a way.
Yeah.
So best case scenario when we head into the playoffs is a Vikings win against the Giants, because I just don't want to see a divisional team.
Yeah. Yep.
So the Vikings beat the Giants. The Bucks beat Dallas.
Yep.
And Seattle beats the Niners.
Yep.
And we get Seattle in our house.
That would be
And
ideal.
we can give to them what they've given to us multiple times, which is I shouldn't say multiple times, but a time that really hurt, which was a playoff loss.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather them come in than Tom Brady.
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah.
Or Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Either of those guys. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you.
Yeah, and it's just out of respect.
Oh my God,
it's truly out of respect. I don't say that. I don't say that from the perspective of like, I don't think we can win the game. I still think the Eagles can beat every single team on this list of NFC playoff teams.
Yeah.
I just think if I could eliminate a team, it'd be one of the teams with a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know they're both aging. I know they're both not the same guys.
It doesn't matter.
But they can simply beat you with their ability to outthink you.
Yes. Yeah.
Before the play.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially with a young coordinator.
Yeah. Who likes to sit in his base defense all day long.
And I think what I said about Rodgers before about his weapons, they don't scare me as much. He's seen us already this year.
Yes. Yep.
So, he's already got a sense of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Brady hasn't. So I guess there's a little bit for both. But ultimately at the end of the day, you prepare for who you play for, and you're supposed to be the best team in the conference. So if the Eagles play offensively the way they can, and I think some of that is going to be considering, like, do we take the ball first and score and put the other team behind and just risk, the halftime situation?
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think he'll do, but you don't want to get behind any of these teams.
Yeah.
You don't want to. I think there's only two teams on this list that I'm okay playing from behind on. Arguably at 2.5, because I'd put the Vikings in there a little bit just because you can force Cousins into mistakes.
Yeah.
But Seattle and New York are the only two teams I like. Maybe the Niners because of Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, eventually the fairy tale's going to end.
The Cinderella story runs out, and I think that could be next weekend.
Yeah.
When they play a team that is good.
Yeah.
But we'll see. All right, man. Quick fixated, and then we're going to do our plea of the week here.
All right, let's do it.
The fixated is simply this: like we're just very lucky. We're very fortunate right now. We grew up pretty much without winning anything. The football team wasn't good when we were younger.
Yep.
It just wasn't good. Coach Rhodes wasn't great, and then Andy came, and Andy turned the franchise around, and we had some winning when we got into high school and then college. The Phillies weren't good, right? And then they were good when we got late into high school and college, and the Sixers were always middling, and so we just haven't been lucky. But we're about to head into our second playoff run in the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
3 months, I should say.
Yeah.
And it should be exciting, and the Sixers are going to be a playoff team this year, barring anything catastrophic. They'll be a playoff team. We're very fortunate right now to be in the situation that we're in, to be able to know that we're going to wake up tomorrow with the number 1 seed. We don't have to worry about football this weekend other than sitting and just enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry about it. We get to just watch and cheer for what benefits the Eagles. And I think as a city, we talk about this all the time that we enjoy the underdog experience. And, there's a chance that people are going to pick against us depending on who we play in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We'll welcome it. I don't see the Eagles as more than a touchdown favorite over anybody not named the Seahawks on this list.
Yeah, for sure.
So, potentially the Giants,
Yeah.
they can end up
Yeah.
a 10-point favorite, maybe 8-point favorite. But for the most part, you look at this list and they're going to be maybe a 6.5-point favorite over everybody else. Maybe.
Yeah.
More than likely they'll be a 3.5 to 4.5-point favorite over the other teams on this list, which is essentially a slap in the face to a number 1 seed. So, but as a city, we should be really proud of this team. They have 2 wide receivers who set a record this year, a franchise record, single season. They set a single season record for wins. Their quarterback took the next step forward that we were hoping he would take forward. The GM continues to be one of the best GMs, not just in the city, but in the sport itself. And the head coach continues to impress us every single week. So, we've got 2 really good guys running our teams from the sidelines and the bench. And we've got 2 really strong guys running our franchises from the suites in the Phillies and the Eagles. And I don't know what the heck's going on in the Wells Fargo Center, but I mean, they're winning, so I guess I can't complain too much. But we're very fortunate right now. We've got 3 really good two really good heads, and then another guy, and then we got 2.5 really good president of ops types going on in terms of executives. So, Regs, we're pretty fortunate, man. I think it's safe to say that it's good to be a Philadelphia sports fan. And honestly, I didn't know how many times we get to say that in 35 years.
It's like you said, it's not a lot. There's maybe a handful. And it's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. And again, I don't think even when we talked about this season at the beginning of the year, we didn't expect this. I know you made your prediction, but at the time it was a bold prediction.
It was.
It wasn't like this is where the Eagles were supposed to end this season at.
Yeah.
And
we laughed at it.
We did.
Laughed at it that night.
It's just an amazing progression from this entire team.
Yeah.
And look, the last Super Bowl team was a pure Philly come out of nowhere, make this run very similar to the Phillies. Only because of the Nick Foles thing. Yes, but
they were the best team in football for
a while.
Weeks. Yeah.
But then again, very similar to the Bryce Harper injury. Wentz gets hurt, and Nick Foles has to come in, and this run happens. These things are where Philly fans live. This is our bread and butter. We get a little nervous being the top dog, but I think we've discussed with the people who called in and all that, this team has been really good when they've needed to. And so I'm going to rely on that. I'm going to very much enjoy just watching football next week and thinking about the scenarios and not being stressed out about it. Knowing that our guys are getting rested and ready to go. And we're going to go into that playoff game, I think, with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think no matter who they play, I'm going to feel really good about it. I do believe that this is a better roster than the team that went and won the Super Bowl. I think, a step forward for them is clearly winning a playoff game.
Yeah.
But the expectation is to be in Arizona. And I think that locker room believes they should be in Arizona. And I think the coaching staff believes it. I think the fan base believes it. So now it's about going out and doing it.
Yeah.
And I look forward to them, having the opportunity and forcing their, imposing their will on some teams in the coming weeks. When I look at this list, and we'll talk about this over the next 2 weeks, when I look at this list, every one of these teams have weaknesses that you can expose.
Yeah.
And certainly I expect this Philly offense with a healthy Jalen Hurts to expose those things. And again, I think tonight, aside, the vanilla offense that we saw was solely just to keep him healthy. So, should be a fun couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for the plea?
Yeah.
Regs, I feel like it's going to happen.
Listen,
I really do.
We're kind of like, we're 2 for 3.
2 for 3. You're right. We are 2 for 3. The one was a big ask.
It was.
And
it was
I feel like this one's a pretty big ask.
Yeah, that's fair. Listen,
I'm not gonna lie. This is a big ask.
We shoot our shot on this podcast.
We shoot our shot, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have not yet asked for a former player of any of our favorite teams to come.
I mean, it's the next
show.
progression. We got GM. We're going to need a coach at some point, and then player. It's just all in that progression.
We went with radio host.
That's right.
And then we went with GM, and now we're going with player. And one of my favorite players from our I guess what would consider our golden age of Eagles football, right?
Yeah.
Because he was part of those Andy Reid teams, and a very underrated part of those Andy Reid teams.
Yeah.
I think probably a guy that people know the name of, but not the importance of because of everything he did from the slot position. I still listen to him every week. He's one of my favorite podcast hosts. He's part of the Inside the Birds network, and it has his own show with Quentin Michael. It's Jason Avant. For those of you that don't remember Jason Avant or aren't old enough to watch to know who Jason Avant was, he spent 8 seasons with the Eagles.
Yep.
And like I said before, was one of the most underrated and underappreciated players in the organization for a long time. This is a guy who caught almost 300 passes for the Eagles, had like 3,500 yards receiving for the Eagles, and caught 12 touchdowns for the Eagles over his 8 seasons coming out of the slot. But I think, most people remember him for the big block in the Miracle in the Meadowlands Part 2, where he knocked himself out.
Yeah, literally put his own consciousness on the line.
Yeah,
to win that game.
Part of the reason why most people love and remember him, I actually remember and love him from being young Azzy and getting his autograph at Lehigh, and him being really kind to me and my cousin Dan, and just stopping and talking to us for a little bit. And clearly he won't remember this because I'm sure he did that with a lot of kids at that time. But was one of the nicest human beings that I have ever met. And really, as I listened to him talk, loved his time in Philadelphia. As I listen to him on his podcast week in and week out, he talks about Lehigh, and he talks about the fans and his experience in Philly and playing for Coach Reid. And Regs, for us, I think it would be really cool to get to talk to one of our favorite players.
Yeah.
From our, like we say, our golden age of Eagle football, but not just that, but I think one of the most important players to that timeline of Eagle football. I think about some of the catches he made, and he was one of Vic's favorite targets, and he was one of Donovan's favorite targets. I think, he's that safety valve that not a lot of people appreciate from a consistency perspective, because they didn't have a lot of highlight reel wide receivers during that time out of TO.
Very
the tight
few.
end was the guy.
Yeah.
But Jason Avant was a guy that, we came to love and appreciate because of the consistency that he brought to the roster. So Jason, our plea is that we would love to have you come on the show as we, as Eagle fans, prepare for the playoffs. The Phixated podcast and its fan base would love to have you come on and talk to us about this team and, that playoff preparation and gearing up for the 2023 playoff run. So Jason, come on, man.
Come on, buddy.
Join the show just for a little bit. Give us whatever time you can give us. We would love to have you on and hang out for a little bit and just pick your brain on the coming weeks of Eagle football. So we leave it at that, Jason. Our fingers are crossed. We thank you for your time as an Eagle, but hope that you can give us a little bit of time as an analyst in the next couple of weeks. So, Regs, anything you want to add?
No, beautifully said.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hopefully he thinks so too.
I'm sure. How could he not? Is really my opinion.
True. I don't know, Jason.
Everyone else listen. Just 2 big fans over here, Jason. That's all.
Yeah, go Birds.
Go Birds.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you hanging with us tonight. As always, make sure if you're
Man,
watching
a
us on
long
YouTube,
emergency pod.
yeah, it was, but
We
it was
were-
a good one.
it was.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Anytime we can
Lot of
get the
fun.
people in, it's great.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's
Oh,
worth it.
always.
So if you have a moment, click subscribe on the YouTube channel below. Make sure you follow us on any podcast platform. Follow, subscribe, rate us, please.
Please.
Make sure you follow us at B&B Podcast on Instagram. You can do the same on Twitter. You can follow at the Phixated Pod on Twitter as well. I'm at the Mic Drop 5. Regs is at Big Regs with the Z. You can find us on Facebook. Excuse me, at Phixated fan page as well. That's where our friends who came on tonight could log on to the show. And as always, make sure you click on the merchandise link. Regs, we should have some new stuff in February for the people. Yes,
Love it.
showing off the actually
We're matching
same.
tonight. That's right.
And you know what? I didn't say this, but Jason, We'll give you
of
some
course.
swag too. I offered it to Ruben. We'll have something for him here soon, actually. So certainly make sure that you click the merchandise link. We'll have some new stuff for you in February, probably early February. So
Fantastic.
guys, we appreciate you so much listening, hanging in. We cannot wait for the playoffs.
Listen, take this next week, sit back, relax, get your plans in order, get your affairs in order, so you can be ready to cheer on the Birds at home as a number 1 seed. And then we will be back after that game to talk about it.
Just so we're clear, the Lions now lead the Packers 13-9.
Here we go.
7 minutes left in the third quarter.
Here we go.
So it could be happening, folks. It could be happening. All right, everybody, make sure you are kind to someone this week. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you on Thursday night
Right.
for a more Philadelphia-centered recap. We love you all. Take care, and we'll see you then. Go Birds! Jason, come on the show.
Thank you everyone for calling in. Jason, come on the show. Go Birds!
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here! The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.